All right. So thank you everybody so much for joining today. We're really happy that you can be with us for this online event, multiplier event, to discuss some of the results of the TUNE project and the possibilities for further international collaboration and exchange. And as most of you know, my name is Laura Ellestad. I'm a lecturer at the Department of Traditional Arts and Traditional Music at the University of South-Eastern Norway. And I'm also the coordinator for the TUNE project. And this event today is hosted by the University of South-Eastern Norway, and it's part of the dissemination of the TUNE project. TUNE is, for those of you who don't know much about it, it's a 3-year Erasmus Plus cooperation partnership project that aims to promote strategic cooperation between 5 European higher music education institutions through the development of an innovative joint module in traditional music based on blended mobility. You'll be able to see coming up in the chat, if I can get it open here. There's a link to the TUNE project website where you can find out more about the project if you're interested. So before we start with the first session of the event today, I want to go through the program overview. So I'll just change to the program slide here. So there's going to be 3 sessions at the event today. During the first session, which will run for about 45 minutes until 10:45 Central European Time, various members of the project consortium will present various aspects of the project. And during the second session, which starts at 11 o'clock Central European Time, we'll get to hear 2 panel discussions, which will address issues related to international cooperation and exchange through higher education in music. The first panel is hosted by Stefan Ghies of the European Association of Conservatories, with 3 panel members: Joshua Dickson of the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, Unni Løvlid from the Norwegian Academy of Music, and Ragnhild Knudsen from the University of South-Eastern Norway. The second panel will be a student panel hosted by USN student Joan Gatti, and as well as 4 other students, all of whom have been participating in the TUNE project. So we're really looking forward to hearing from all of the panel members in the second session. And then there's going to be a 30-minute break between 12 and 12:30, so you can have some food. And then we'll come back together for the final session at 12:30 Central European Time. And during this last session, you'll get to enjoy a screening of student videos that were created as part of the TUNE project this semester. I also want you to know that we are very interested in audience feedback, and we welcome and encourage you to post questions, any questions you might have for any of the presenters in the chat. And we're hoping there'll be time for questions at the end of each session. So without further ado, we can start the first session. And we're happy to have 4 members of the TUNE project consortium guiding us through this first session. We have, maybe you can give a wave when I say your name. We have Luis Costa Vázquez from the Higher Conservatory of Music of Vigo. From Galicia, Spain, give us a wave, Luis. Yes. And we have George Kokkonis from the University of Ioannina in Arta, Greece. Hi,
Good morning. Good morning.
We have Benjamin Rygh and Åsmund Omholt from the University of South-Eastern Norway in Rauland. Hello, Benjamin and Åsmund. Yes. So before and also I'll start off by giving some introductory information about the TUNE project. But the very first thing I want to do is show you a short video that'll give you some first impressions of the TUNE project. So take it away, Benjamin.
Okay, I have to go for a new battery. Yes, sorry. Ready? Yes, I will start and speak with
in Greek or in English.
we take it in in English. How was it to travel with so that's okay to play, but can you have it in the cabin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Up. Yes. Up to the lab.
Yeah, I understand. How is it to be in Norway in the tune program?
It's a lifetime experience. Very cold, snowing all the time. Not all the time.
Is the French fiddle tunes very different from the Norwegian fiddle tunes?
I would say so, yes, especially rhythmically. In Norway, there are a lot of, I don't know, unstable beats, let's say,
yes.
that we're not used to.
How do you find this program in about the tune program? How did you find it?
It's very interesting because we connect we meet a lot of people from different countries. We meet their tradition and their instruments. It's very interesting, and we met new friends. That's the point. We met new friends, and I think that I'm gonna keep them for a long time. That's interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Benjamin. So I hope that gives you a little taste of what the Tune project is. I'm going to open back up my presentation here. Okay. So before we go to the other presenters who are going to tell you a little bit more in detail about the different parts of the project, I want to give you briefly some introductory facts, and you also got some on the video now as well, about Tune. So as I already mentioned in the beginning, Tune is a 3-year Erasmus Plus cooperation partnership project that aims to develop a mutually recognized joint module at the undergraduate level in traditional music between 5 European higher music education institutions. And as you saw in the video now, the project consortium has 6 partners, 5 higher education institutions in Europe, the University of Tartu, Viljandi Culture Academy in Estonia, the University of Ioannina in Arta, Greece, the pôle Aliénor in Poitiers, France, the Higher Conservatory of Music in Vigo, in Galicia, Spain, the University of South-Eastern Norway, and finally the European Association of Conservatories, the AEC. And you also saw in the video now that the project has 6 main objectives. First, and kind of the overarching goal of the project, is to develop a sustainable, mutually recognized joint undergraduate module between the 5 partner institutions that's based on blended mobility. So blended mobility, it entails a combination of physical mobility with a virtual component. So mixing short physical mobilities with online learning between the students at the 5 different institutions. The second aim is to develop digital educational content and technical structures for an online learning platform that's used during the virtual exchange portion of the joint module. The third aim is to provide access to digital educational content, as well as live student musical performances produced during the project to the general public. So some of the content that we produce for the online learning platform will be made openly accessible to the public through the project website. And you can already find some of it there, as well as on the project YouTube channel. Also, student concerts that are created during the intensive weeks are presented free of charge at public music festivals during the project period. The fourth aim is to foster the development of intercultural competence among students, teachers, and other project stakeholders through the lens of traditional music exchange. So the project aims to raise awareness and understanding among students and other project stakeholders regarding cultural identity, cultural awareness, and cultural heritage in the European context. The fifth aim is to enhance music students' employability by providing opportunities to build a European professional network, to gain performance experience in professional conditions, and to develop digital skills and competences. And finally, the last aim is to further improve mobility between the partner institutions by forming a community of traditional music students and faculty that engage in collaborations and exchange, both within and beyond the scope of the project. And we've already seen that happening so far in the first year and a half of the project. TUN has two main project results, which you'll be hearing more about in the next presentations. The first one is the joint module, which we have tentatively called European Traditional Musics Beyond Borders. So one of the main activities of the project period is to develop this joint module, test different solutions, adapt it, and implement, finally at the end of the project, to actually implement the joint module. And as I said before, the format of the joint module is based around this concept of blended mobility, which the Erasmus Guide defines as a combination of physical mobility and a virtual component, facilitating collaborative online learning, exchange, and teamwork. The second project result is the TUN online platform for learning, teaching, and musical exchange. And so this online platform is to be used during the virtual exchange portion of the joint module, and it's a central tool for the project. The project takes an exploratory approach. So we've organized it into 5 test periods of 1 academic semester each, where we test different pedagogical approaches, different e-learning tools, and online collaborative formats. And we are asking students to evaluate their experience after each semester. So we've gotten a lot of good feedback from students so far in the first 3 semesters. And we have 2 remaining. And each test period of the joint module, as you can see here, each of these periods also includes what we call an intensive week. And each partner in the project hosts an intensive week during the project period. Intensive weeks are the physical mobility component of the joint module, and they focus on intensive practical work between the students, music rehearsals, workshops, and also public concerts. And we've seen that this intensive week experience allows students to develop teamwork skills, self-confidence, multicultural recognition, and independent learning. And you'll be hearing more about the intensive weeks from Per Åsmund in just a little bit. So without further ado, I'd like to give the word to our next presenter, Luis Costa Vázquez from the Higher Conservatory of Music of Vigo, who's leading the development of the joint module.
Okay, good morning to everyone. Do you hear me right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Laura, for the starting words. I will resume in some minutes main aspects about the module that Laura have exposed in her first works, in her first words in these minutes. So I know that all of us know about the model design, especially among the teachers, but I would like to strengthen some aspects that to shape the lines of the model, and in particular way for the students, because of course they are participants in intensive weeks, but intensive week is a part of the activities in the module, as Laura has said before, and sometimes I find that students have not the complete idea about what the module is. So for everybody, for us, for the students, and for visitors that are this morning today with us, just these main lines about the module, and after that we can maybe you can have some questions if you have at the moment that is provided. So what is the module in the next KM? It's very more comfortable. So in a short way, is as Laura have said, a joint study programs between higher education institutions from different countries. How many countries? In our case, 5 countries, but it could be more, or maybe it could be sometimes less. But usually the most common I have seen in the European experience is about 5, 6, maybe not very much more institutions. And in our case, I find it's a very very good number, because it's enough variety, but it's not very spread that difficult the work inside of the module. The purposes of the module are we can resume in some words. The first is the internationalization, of course. The module is an international experience in its main object, to put in contact different countries, different cultures, different ways to practice learning and teaching traditional music, and also different ways of practice the professional life in traditional music. Is one of the objectives, of course. Convergence is in relation with the idea of to design ways for teaching and learning that are in a common sense. We have found in this experience in the last months that from the starting of TUNE, that there are different focuses about the ways of learning, teaching and learning traditional music. And it's very interesting. And one of the purpose of the module is, of course, to find spaces that where these different ways could convergence, to put together for to achieve synergies, cooperative works that they take advantage of the different strengths of different institutions. We're different, but we have altogether some strengths that we can take advantage of that. And the final goal of the module is to achieve a kind of excellence in the aspect of the not just in teaching and learning, even in participating, cooperating, and then to find a way to achieve a very good level in professional terms in our students. And of course, last but not least, one of the main goals of this project is to strengthen the tolerance and cooperation among different institutions in these times that, especially in these times that are not sometimes very peaceful. We need to find common spaces for to walk and to understand the difference that are inside Europe. Well, just very quickly, institutions you know is the University of SouthEastern Norway is the coordinator, our is for coordinator. The pôle Aliénor, France, our school in Música in Galicia is you know, a country inside of Spain. Tartu recall in Estonia, and Ioannina University at Greece. And finally, like common space for all is the participation of the Association European Conservatoires, Academies de Musique and Musikschulen, with site in Brussels, you know. Well, I think more specifically, what the contents of the joint model. These last months, from the starting of the team project, it was very useful for us for checking the ways for teaching and learning and what we can teach and learning inside of the model. We have this in three specific blocks: the practical training and instrumental and vocal interpretation, choreographic interpretation, sound and video production, staging techniques, use of e-learning platforms. In the block of theoretical training, some contents is important about history and systematics of music from different local traditions. We find that the line of the intensive week and the experience of the activities inside of the semester is very we highlight very much the practice aspect, and it's very important because finally musicians, what they should do is to play music, of course, but it's important also to have some approaches to historic or thematic aspects, and even about anthropology, sociology of traditional music in different countries. Of course, it's not the goal to have a full vision of the culture in 5 countries. It would be impossible. But we trust and we can do a first approach enough that allow students to know some starting points, and after that, maybe some of them would like to go deeper inside of the different traditions. That is I think that is the aim of this theoretical training block. And in the middle, like a theoretical or practical training, there are some aspects by research techniques and reporting in the musicology. For example, we will see today some works that students did, and where in some way they did investigation, researching to elaborate videos, to elaborate some works. So aspects as transcription of edited music, musical creation, organology, instrumental music, pedagogy, and traditional popular music promotion of the musical career. This final aspect is for us important because after graduation, students, of course, the aim is to have a personal career in traditional music, and in this field, the knowing of to promote the musical career is something that they, of course, we need. Total amount of the joint model will be 6 ICTS. It's a number that we have according in our meetings, and this amount is in the general level of the subjects that are actually in the curricula of the different schools. For whom? For many people, of course. I said here, of course, students is the main goal of the model. 5 people for each school is the number that actually we are using, and is the proposal for the joint model when the joint model is starting the evolution. But of course, teachers, how many? It depends. It depends on the nature of the subject, the nature of the student, the activities, and some different aspects as I will do. Yes. The students that will participate in joint module will need some skills before. We have not defined exactly the level of these skills, but the experience on these last months show us that it's not difficult, it's not a problem for the students, because there are students from a bachelor degree that have a specialization in traditional music because of her instruments and her academic formation. So the knowledge of traditional music, the own traditional music of cultural area, is something that the students have in enough level. The instrumental specialized playing skills, the basic level of listening, vocal, and dance skills. Because here the situation is sometimes different. Some schools have a strong tradition, for example, in dance skills. Some others have not. But we find that one of the goals also of the joint module is to generate to create a general environment in some skills. So, for example, if one institution have not very strong dance skills, that module will provide opportunity to develop these ones inside of our own tradition or in contact with foreign traditions. So, experiencing ensemble practice, of course, that's very, very, very useful to create music together. Enough competence in English languages, okay. I think maybe my level could be enough. So fortunately, making music is not very, very exigent in terms of languages, and there are having no problems about the development of activities. And of course, enough competence in learning tools, like the use of platforms like this one or another similar platforms that after that in the exposition about online platform, my colleague will expose. The planning is that all the students will have a full funding from each institution to develop all activities online and all mobilities. The first proposal is about 1 week mobility a year, and we expect that there were not problems about the tools and for the funding, especially from the Erasmus agency, or maybe it could be another different agencies that could provide some funds. So the starting point for the model could be September 2024. We know that TUNE is active until October 2022, but we are thinking about the starting point of the course, the academic year in institutions. So maybe September, could be October, but at first I think we think about September as the normal date, and not very much. I have a good race in this activity, and of course, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Luis, for giving us this insight into the development of the joint module. And now I'd like to give the word to our next presenter, and that's George Kokkonis from the University of Ioannina, who's leading the development of the online platform, and also Benjamin Rygh, who's a member of the online platform working group. So, George, the word is yours.
It's okay for everyone, my PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning to everyone, dear colleagues, dear friends visitors. I will present with the help of my colleague Benjamin Rygh the online platform project. What could be an online platform, a digital database of a lot of material of our traditions, musical traditions, videos, recordings, photos, sheet music, etc. Maybe a place for meeting or to create meetings, to collaborate, etc., etc., and encyclopedia also of a lot of information. I think that online platform is all of this. But for us, the first goal, it was to create the opportunity for learning distance, teaching also, and of course for musical exchange, because it's not very simple that as we don't knew at the start each other, the traditions, I mean, the online platform, it was a good opportunity for that. It's a kind of central repository, and with this central repository, this kind of a database, but not only a database, it's good opportunity for sharing multiple types of digital files, video, audio, photos, as I said, sheet music, etc., as well as the main communication network between the partners institution. But our main goal, it was to be a main communication network between students. Via the online platform, student groups will engage with one another, as well as the participating teachers. Do we propose some elements of innovation after the pandemic period? Sorry, I think that all of us, we had a lot of experience on this kind of learning and teaching at distance, from distance if you want, and also we tried a lot of new software that had the crash test period to apply this new technology tools, I mean, to teach and to learning from distance. What are our elements of innovation? Distance learning, distance teaching, musical cultural exchange, always via this platform, and self or solo, if you want, presentations and performances. This was a very good experience and not very easy, expression. Someone who must present himself, and by that he must present his traditions, his special instrument, etc., etc., and of course the group musical performances. That is not very easy, but we try to do. E-learning activities on traditional music. That is a point of on which we have not a lot of experience. We have a lot of experience on popular music, for example, on classical music, but not on traditional music. Music ensemble e-courses, lectures, seminars on the pedagogy of teaching traditional music. all these are, in my opinion, points of new trends, of new tools on how we must talk and teach traditional music. Developing video tutorials on learning, teaching traditional music, sharing audio and video of local repertoires, and get acquainted with the music culture of each other. In historical recordings, in recent contemporary recordings, and on the recordings of our students, of our ensembles. The role of the online platform in the project. It's a central, as I said, repository for sharing multiple types of documents, video, audio, photos, sheet music, etc. The main node of the network created by our institution, serving for live and interaction communication, musical practice, and self-experience, connecting everyone and enable collaboration between students and teachers. It's an experience also, in my opinion, a new experience for everyone to create small or large networks for live playing, for create small or large ensembles, and of course to create a lot of data with video, audio, and photos, etc., data on traditional music, on local traditional music of each country. And of course, offering content for the intensive weeks. This is a main goal of the online platform. Prepare the intensive week, so offering a lot of content of data before the intensive week. Also stocking content, a lot of material during the intensive week, and of course, working with all this material after the intensive week. So, actions supported by the platform to make music, of course, together, to collaborate via the internet, and to connect with other students meaningfully. The main actions of communication and sharing involved is video recording of national group on their own musical tradition, and individual video recordings in, I think, in a modern way of expressing musical playing. Video recordings of different pieces of music learning during the intensive week, interpreted by mixed ensembles. The online platform also, it was a kind of a special place for the apply of the learning management system, the LMS, as we said. And we, in our experience, we worked and tested a lot of different LMS. As I said, it's a new experience, and we tried to find the best solution. We start in our first period with Moodle, supported by our Estonian friends. The second period was the MS Teams, and our decision now, and I think Benjamin will talk in details after me. I think we decide to stay now in Canvas, and we think that is better for our needs. Here, can you watch some screenshots with the possibilities that we had with this LMS? This is the Moodle. This is the Moodle also. some videos, self-presentations, etc., uploaded. This was, I think, Moodle also, a lot of archives for stocking elements of local traditions of intensive weeks each country. This was some self-presentations again. This is a screenshot from the MS Teams LMS, different kind, and this is now some photos taken by Canvas LMS. So, the online platform up to now, the platform gave the possibility to students to communicate and share data, sound and sheet music, knowledge on musical tradition in a national or local level, and musical experience. The discussion meetings arranged by instrument groups offered the opportunity for discussions on technique and other specific topics related to their musical instruments. And of course, discussions also about the necessity of pleasure to play traditional music in the 21st century, highlighted the sentiment to be members of a special network. Let's say a network of musicians that are specialized on traditional music in a modern way, let's say. Therefore, discussions and online performances exploiting and developing the aspect of improvisation in traditional music was a great challenge for revitalizing it in today's musical practices and aesthetics. Finally, exchange in teaching methods contribute to the creation of new transnational educational networks for both teachers and students, and sharing repertoire, getting acquainted with each other's music culture and tradition. And I would like now to give my place to Benjamin. Thank you very, very much.
Yes, hello. I just want to just say something about some concrete outcome we have done in the online platform group, because collaboration is hard, I find, and I think most of the time we are actually not collaborating so much, but we are trying to understand each other, and that is also a very difficult task. But anyway, after 1 year in the online platform group, we have actually made an important discovery, and we had not yet found the best LMS or the best apps for us in the project, but it seemed like the biggest frustration among both the students and teacher were about login issues. And then it occurred to us that for an LMS or other apps to work seamlessly in an international collaborative project like Tune, the LMS should not be connected to a partner institution. And this may seem like a very simple thought, but it is actually not. And we could not have reached to this this outcome without collaboration, actually, I think. I would never figure out this out myself. So with the Canvas LMS that we use now, we use a private account as a host for the LMS. And for the first time in the project, we had no login issues. And that still surprises me. So this is what we have decided to do now, to use also other apps without any connection to a partner institution. So we look forward to work the next or the rest of the project period with this insight, and this is also something that other projects, similar projects, can benefit from our experiences and this insights. So yeah. So this is just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much to George and Benjamin for sharing some of your insights, important insights from the development of the online platform. And I see we are a little bit behind our schedule, but we just go on with the final presentation for this session. And that is, I want to give the word to Per Åsmund Omholt from the University of South-Eastern Norway, who's a member of the Intensive Weeks Working Group, and he'll share some impressions from the Intensive Weeks.
Yes, thank you. And hello, everybody. Can you hear me? That's good. Okay, the Intensive Weeks in the project, also called Work Package 4, is probably for many of us the core of Tune. Meeting physically, getting together, getting to know each other, and sharing experiences, sharing music and dance face to face are essential when we are engaged in cultural and knowledge exchange. It's deep learning in a completely different way than reading something in a book or seeing something on a screen. And I think everyone who has participated in these Intensive Weeks so far, they are left with both good experiences, with new perspectives, and with useful knowledge, and maybe first of all, with a network of interesting people, many new friends. Some may remain friends further in life, maybe also in other ways than professional. So with all these advantages, it's probably also worth spending some resources on this part of Tune. Traveling costs, but I don't think we can avoid it. So no doubt about that this Intensive Weeks is a very essential point, essential part of the joint module. And so far there has been 3 Intensive Weeks, and the activities has been documented on both audio and video. And based on this material, we will now have a small slideshow that evokes memories for some of us and can tell about what we have been doing. And I hope this presentation can reflect the strength and the power of these exchange weeks. So please, Laura, you can push the button and start the presentation.
Hør meg nå, snille jenta mi, hør det du verkligvis vita. Tenker du at det kunne bli, det var det jeg så gjerne ville vita. Jeg skulle spørre fra mor og fra far, høtten om jeg ville giva det svar. Svar meg nå, la det skje, komme hande så daskar jeg meg til.
So I hope this, thank you, Åsmund, for sharing this great slideshow and giving so many impressions of the 3 intensive weeks that we've had so far. I want to ask, I see that it's almost 11 o'clock and almost time for our next session to start. But before we go on to that, I'd like to ask if there's anyone who has any questions for any of the presenters so far. You can put your questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand and ask any questions for anyone who's about the Tune project, any aspects of the Tune project so far. I don't see any questions. Okay, how are you feeling? Would you like 2 minutes for to get a coffee and go to the bathroom, and we can come back at 11:02? Is it okay? Okay, we'll see you in 2 minutes. Okay, well, welcome back. That was a very short break, but I know we need to use all the time we have in the best way we can. We have not enough time as it is, so I want to just give the word straight to Stefan Ghies of the European Association of Conservatories, the AEC, who's hosting this first panel discussion with, and so you can introduce the panel members. Varsågod, Stefan.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be surrounded by, so to say, this amazing group of very tuned experts. Two of them have not been involved at all in the Tune project, and experts, so to say, in cross-border folk trad music activities. I will start introducing to you the one you might know, who is Ragnhild Knudsen. She's Associated Professor at the Institute for Traditional Art and Folk Music at the University of South-Eastern Norway. That's a long title for the institution who runs the project. Ragnhild is a classically trained violinist who later found her way to the Hardanger fiddle. She teaches, researches, coordinates the study programs in Rauland, and she regularly performs also with her trio Klima. And Ragnhild was an early advocate, so to say, of cross-border cooperation in the field of folk and trad, and she was for a long time chairwoman of the Nordic network Nortrad. Welcome, Ragnhild. So the next one of my list is Joshua Dickson. Josh was born and raised in Alaska, but lives for now 30 years in Scotland. Looking back on a career of both performer and researcher specialized in contemporary Scottish music, with the main focus on bagpipes, he is the head of traditional music at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland in Glasgow. Josh has successfully positioned the Scottish Conservatoire as quite distinctive from the UK institutions and also among wider Europe in the field of tertiary level traditional folk music education, among other things by reforming curricula and dealing with innovative assessment practices. Welcome, Josh. And the third and last but not least is Unni Løvlid. She has a very broad musical background. She's a singer and performing musician, not only active in traditional Nordic folk music, but also jazz, contemporary music, bringing her experience from one area to another in fascinating way, be it through techniques of improvisation or dealing with microtonality, to name only two of them. And Unni is Associate Professor at the Norwegian Academy of Music in Oslo, where she is heading the folk music department. And like Ragnhild and Joshua as well, also Unni is doing research. She publishes articles and more. And I think, by the way, this personal union of being at the same time performing musicians, researcher, author of books, and maybe scores or editor of scores, teacher, organizer, is a very particular characteristic that many folk musicians have in common across border, and also a characteristic that distinguishes them at the same time from many other musicians in other genres. Welcome, Unni. My name is Stefan Ghies. I am the chief executive of the AEC, the Association Européenne des Conservatoires, European Higher Music Education Institutions. The AEC is a European organization based on voluntary membership, but the fact that almost all, at least all big and renowned institutions that are at all active in the field of higher music education in Europe are indeed AEC members makes AEC quite powerful, or as our claim, if you go to our website, states, makes AEC the voice of European higher music education. Folk and traditional music have so far neither been super visible or nor high priority on AEC's agenda, but we, and if I say we, I mean not me personally in this case, but our management, our decision-making bodies, our members are keen to change this. And that's why I'm very happy to have the honor to chair and facilitating this session today. We agreed on a couple of thematic fields we want to address, but we're also happy to give you at the end, as Laura was already announcing, the possibility to address questions or to via a chat that I might share with the panel speakers in the last 5 minutes of the session. So if I'm talking about specific topics we want to address, let's just start by the first one, which is about the added value of going abroad, in particular for a musician in the background with folk traditional music. So what is the main added value of international collaboration, in particular in the sector of folk and trad music? I like to ask. And maybe I start with the other way around as I presented the speakers. Unni, do you have any idea on that?
Thank you, Stefan. I find it very important that we go abroad and learn from each other. Now in Norway, we have a very good cooperation between the different institutions who work with traditional music within education. And I find that we have included our traditional music in an academic tradition as a huge cultural experiment that has been done too little research on of the consequences of this huge experiment. And I find it extremely important that we learn from each other, especially the mistakes that we do, so we can adjust and develop our different study programs more based on the qualities in the different styles of traditional music. And what I also find is that it's important to have contact. Well, I feel that the Norwegian traditions, they are related to the European traditions in traditional music. There are so many things that we can discuss and understand. It can be on a concrete level or it can be on a more philosophical level. But I find that we really need each other and learn from each other and strengthen each other and adjust each other.
Thanks. Josh.
Hello, thank you, Stefan. Hello, Ragnhild, hello, Unni. It's great to see you. I think it's safe to see everyone again. So thanks for having me here. Absolutely agree with everything Unni was saying. Really, the added value of going abroad generally is going to be this fairly similar for traditional and folk musicians in Europe as it would be for any musicians. In Europe, I would say there are the connections to be made artistically and professionally and educationally. The wider experiment that Unni articulated is something that doesn't necessarily have as strong a voice in Europe as other fields of music might be. But we have models that are very strong to work with. The AEC, of course, is a very strong model for that. And the networks that have developed over a number of years in the last generation or more have really shown us that we have great strengths that we can identify and learn from. And so that value of going abroad really comes down to the connections to be made and the greater experience of collaboration between art forms. Some will often point to collaboration between classical musicians and traditional or folk musicians or jazz musicians, but even between within the field of traditional music or folk music across Europe or even further afield, there are so many exciting differences as well as inspiring commonalities. So it's that greater experience of collaborating with them that really brings value to having that experience. Also, as I'd say, just general, the value of mobility and the consciousness of the opportunities that it brings for all of us. We don't tend to really think about that day to day until we encounter that unfamiliar environment, and then suddenly the world opens up to us. And so we all benefit from that, both we when we go abroad, but also those whom we welcome from abroad. We can see those benefits, and it does bring opportunities. So mobility is a great value. The the collaborative experience of going abroad, and just the connections to be made professionally in shorter and longer term, artistically as well, the inspiration that it brings. All that is something that really strengthens the networks that we can develop over time.
So Ragnhild, maybe you can link that what Josh and Unni said a little bit to your experiences also you made in the Tune project. Did that happen in that way? I mean, and is there something that maybe students learned from being in touch with other institutions in foreign countries that they might not have been able to learn at home or not as good? No, Ragnhild? I don't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, I want to say that now I'm talking to you from Ireland, where I have been 4 days here in what's called Echoes of Erasmus, where we were invited, 3 teachers from other parts of Europe, and to play and have spent time playing with the students and teachers here. And I think there are 2 things I'd like to say, and I've been able to attend a couple of sessions here, and I think we should bear in mind that what makes us different from the other genres is that our traditional music is not only a genre, but also it is or has been an expression for identity for a group of people. And I think the more you go into a small community that cultivates a special genre, the more important it is to also have contact with people in totally different countries. I think the repertoire that we do will be more locally connected than in other genres. But it's important to collaborate and see our own things from the outside. And also we have this great big advantage of having the oral tradition and having the dancing, so it can easily be connected when we're live together and are doing, meeting together. So I think going abroad is really an eye-opener, not because you're supposed to learn all the other traditions, but because you can see the things that the other traditions have in common when they enter higher education, the discussions around that, and when it's both a genre and also a style that some groups of people have as their identity mark or have set their identity mark on. I know I didn't answer your question, Stefan, but that's some of the thoughts I've been thinking of. Yeah.
I think you did. I mean, I was particular. I mean, you stressed them common, let's say, characteristics among these kind of expressions of folk and traditional music in different countries, both musical, non-musical. And I think what you said about identity is quite interesting and strong. I was wondering, because I understand a little bit in between the lines with all 3 of you, that if you talk about intercultural, or let's say the other way around, going abroad for a traditional musician who is embedded in a high music education institution might mean not only crossing borders in terms of going in different countries, but also getting in touch maybe at your own institution with different genres. I think that's a very interesting aspect. So if we talk about intercultural understanding about the way how maybe collaboration in the field of folk music promotes intercultural understanding, you might refer to both these aspects, going cross-genre, going cross-border of a country. What does it contribute, and what understanding do you have of intercultural meetings, understanding, cooperation? Whomever will start.
Yeah, I can start. It's not only what you do, but how you do it, and to be open for other ways of learning and teaching. It's like you have in our next question there about the culture for learning and teaching, and one can very soon think that the way we do it is the right way, and it's very interesting to meet other ways. And I think the basic line underneath all of this is networking. Networking is for students and for teachers.
Unni, you have been stressing a little bit the role of folk and trad within your institution. Ragnhild mentions, so to say, the particular culture of learning and teaching. Could you say something on that? Is it like that across your institution that are represented here today, there are more common tracks than maybe across genres, or how does it these kind of things are communicating to each other or learning from each other?
I've just written a text for the Prime project of AEC, where I stress this theme. And there I write about how I experienced being a student at NMH and now to work here. And what I chose as a student was that, because I was the first student with traditional Norwegian singing as the main instrument, and I felt misunderstood for 6 years and extremely exotic. And it was quite tough years of studying, but also at the same time I felt extremely privileged, and I was a treasured student at the academy. But what I chose to survive was that I tried to learn the way of thinking and talking about music that all the different genres had around me, so I could be allowed to just continue to be myself. And now as a teacher, when I'm able to communicate with whoever at the academy, then slowly those around me also learn my way of thinking and talking about music. For example, yesterday we did a 3-hour concert with the Håvard Gims and all his piano students. And that develops not only me and my students, but it also develops them. They get more perspectives into music. So what I have chosen is to infiltrate the academy, because traditional music, it has colored and inspired so much the other styles in music, and vice versa. It goes, music is music lives its own way, and we have to learn to communicate and understand and respect each other. So that is what I've chosen.
Yeah, thanks. Josh, do you have, I mean, what musical skills and social skills maybe do both students and teachers need to going, I mean, or to make intercultural understanding happen? And you could see it in the broader sense. You already just touched upon the topic.
That's right. I really love Unni's reference to infiltrating the institution, because it's absolutely right. It rings very true. I'm sure for all of us in the, well, I would hope certainly to whatever extent that our roles in our various institutions have had an impact, not just within our particular departments, but in the wider institutions. We've seen that in a number of cases, and I think that infiltration, I think, is a great thing. It's a great mark of the effectiveness of what we do, and acceptance as well. In terms of social skills and musical skills that students and teachers need to ideally make intercultural understanding happen more, I suppose, more efficiently, or have more of an impact. To be honest, I think there are a lot of soft skills to do with generosity and observation. There's a hunger to experience new things, to encounter new musical material, different contexts, a willingness to hold a mirror up to one's own practices. And of course, when we say intercultural, that doesn't necessarily mean international. That can mean intra-national as well. It could be within one's own country. There will be a multiplicity of cultures, or traditional or forms of traditional music or folk music that with associated cultures within one country. We see that in the UK, of course. And so the hunger to be able to, or to want to experience new things, to be inspired by new repertoire or different ways of conceptualizing the music and different functions, and reflecting on how that can impact on musicianship, is obviously the a prime ingredient for making that work. I suppose there's an argument to be made for a high level of technical ability within one's instrument, whether vocally or instrumentally, just for the sake of further enabling us to embody the things being experienced, new repertoires, new styles, new ways of expression. Because in that sense, of course, technique is very much about a foundation for our expressive skills. But it might very well be more on the side of the social skills, the idea of being generous with one's time, having the interpersonal skills and the social confidence to be both an active participant in these new environments, but also a passive participant to some extent, to observe, to be willing to look and see and hear, and then try. So there are soft skills there. There are some harder, more tangible technical skills, which obviously make that work in a great way. But that could be, as I said, that could be quite far afield, or it could be actually closer to home as well within the areas we live and work and perform.
Thanks a lot. Coming back to what I said in the beginning, AEC is keen and open to make the voice of folk and trap music better heard inside, let's say, the family of higher music education community. And I sometimes have the impression, if you talk about the hunger to experience new things, folk and traditional musicians are far ahead from, in particular, classical musicians who have their repertoire and they are happy to repeat that somehow. So if you talk about future perspectives and maybe urgent things on your to-do lists with regard to folk and trad and international cooperation, mobility, and being embedded in or being more present, let's say, in the higher music education community, what would be your most urgent to-dos? What kind of structures, maybe infrastructures, would you like to have available? And how could we facilitate staff-based knowledge to exchange within the field of traditional folk music? All these kind of things. We are coming on to an end. I mean, just what will give the voice to all three of you, just to say a few words about how you imagine the future and how we could help to make it happen. Maybe Josh, you start. You're still there.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's great. One of the things we talked about just very toward the beginning was the strength of AEC as a model for platforming and networking. So providing forums for knowledge exchange, whether it be between staff or between students, providing platform for that kind of mobility that we talked about earlier is essential, I think, to have. And of course, the Tune project here is an example of that. It's a very strong model for collaboration between institutions, between groups, between cultures. And we're seeing the benefits of that in the beautiful presentation we saw earlier. So we need these kind of platforms and networks, but we also need what they foster, which is that kind of fostering of an artistic research environment, multinationally or internationally, but also something that's academically valid, I suppose. Something that lends credibility and a further sense of belonging, I suppose, a strengthening of our voice. So platforms like this, networks, projects of this kind, really are essential for fostering that kind of artistic research environment and the creativity and the collaboration that emerges from it. But on a more also an equally tangible level is publications. I suppose in a common academic language, drawing from a plurality of contributors, publications that are accessible to everybody and that consolidate knowledge exchange amongst contributors, making it accessible to all. They provide really substantial milestones, and they help to foster that sense of artistic research, the sense of a valid, credible environment, and foster that sense of belonging that is so important to our sense of identity.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Josh. Unni, maybe some last brief words, because I think we are still running out of time and want to give the opportunity to the community to ask questions still. Unni, some thoughts about that?
I think it's a very good idea to build this new platform. And in this process, we have to remember that our different countries in Europe have different history, and what we consider as traditional music are also extremely different. For example, when I discussed this with teachers from the Netherlands, they wanted to include pop music into this platform. So my suggestion is that we create a new platform. The working title is Traditional, Global and Folk. But when we have this yearly gathering for the teachers, I think it should be at the same place at the same time as the PJP platform, because some of the themes will be, somehow we are connected with the PJP platform, and in some ways we are really not. So the individual teacher should be able to choose a little eclectic between the two platforms, but we have to have our own platform to be more strong, and that the information reaches each institution who has education within this field.
Yeah, thanks. For those who do not know, PJP is AEC's pop jazz platform. Thanks, we will follow that up. Ragnhild?
Yes, I think it's important to remember that a lot of the folk traditional educations also happen on different kind of schools. It's not all in music academies where there's a lot of other performing educations. We also have like in the Nortrad network with 16 schools, a lot of them are based on universities and have a more ethnomusicology direction, and we should include them because it's the systems in the different countries and the different schools are built very different. That's one thing. And the other thing I'd like to say is that we need to get our voices heard, like Unni says, learn to speak the different languages, but also develop curriculum and a way of speaking that takes height for our own aesthetics, the folk tradition aesthetics and the folk and tradition way of doing things, and speak up loud and develop theory and a curriculum that is based on that and not being pushed into boxes made to serve other kinds of music.
Thanks a lot. Very, very inspiring ideas, and I will certainly take them on. Laura, as far as I can see, there are no questions asked in the chat. I mean, do we have still the time? Shall we just move on? I just ask you.
We can take a couple of minutes if there's anyone who wants to ask questions to anyone in the panel. You can write it in the chat or raise your hand. Michelle, did you have a question?
Voila, the sound is good. Yeah. No, I think in each country, each territory, we teach specific music, and we develop a specific way to teaching. And I think it could be interesting to meet for exchange on our practices of teaching. how do you teach the rhythm, and what is what experience do you create between rhythm, body, voice, etc., etc. I think it could be very interesting to go after the first step of tune and to exchange between teachers on those way of teaching. And I think teaching of traditional music is perhaps one of the most diversified, yes, in English, diversifié, most rich, most actually, because we have many things to build. We don't teach this music since 200, 300, or 400 years. It's very in the last years. So, well, I'm sorry, I think the skills of English language, I don't, well, I hope you understand.
Everything's here.
Thank you.
There's one other hand raised, I see. It's good, Georgios.
Yes. Can you hear me? I think.
Yeah.
This could be a very good project, but as an ethnomusicologist, I would like to. I'm thinking, I mean, in a lot of issues around the terms, for example, folk music, traditional music, popular music, words that have not the same sense in every language. It's different in English when we are talking about popular, folk, traditional, totally different in French when we are talking about musique populaire, musique folklorique, ou musique traditionnelle, and totally different in the Balkans, in Greece, in Turkey, etc., etc. We must not forget also that folk music is very attached to national identities. It was instrumentalized, and it's still in some countries. Don't forget also that world music, in my opinion, was a kind of art folk or art traditional, if you want. I mean, there was a dialogue between classical musicians, or if you want, well-educated musically musicians with folk music elements, etc., etc. And all this against the popular, that for me is the live. It's an organism that is alive. It was always alive. So these are some ideas to think about them, because if we start to create networks, we must do first of all the definition. In our collaboration in tune, we are not at the same not level. I don't like to put hierarchically the terms, but we are not at the same speed, if you want. It's totally different in France from Greece, for example. So we must think about them, because I think that we will create something that it will be very, very quickly institutionalized, because the education very, very often institutionalize traditions that are alive traditions, not dead traditions. some ideas. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much for this valuable contribution. Laura, I think we should now close. So I take the opportunity to once more big thank to the 3 panel speakers and also to those who contributed at the end. Very valuable. And I hand over now. Thanks a lot to Laura. Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you. I'd like to say the same. Thank you also to you, Stefan, for hosting the discussion, and thanks to everybody for your really interesting insights. I think we have to just move straight on to the student panel. So I want to just pass the word straight over to Joan Gatti, who is studying here at the University of South-Eastern Norway. And he's hosting the panel discussion and with 4 other students who from all of the different partner institutions in TUN, who are going to talk a little bit about their experiences through the TUN project. So Johan, varsågod.
Yes, so good morning, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me and see me very well. So yes, so I've been asked to host this session, and I'm Joan Gatti, as Laura said, and I'm joined from the 4 students from the other institutions. I will now probably ask them to briefly present themselves, maybe with their names and the institutions they come from, and maybe the instrument they are studying in their own home institution. So we'll start maybe from the student from Estonia, if Brett is here.
Yes, hello, nice to see you all. I am Brett from Estonia, and I study the fiddle.
Yes, thank you. And then we have the student from Greece, if he's here.
Yes. Hello, good morning to everyone. Do you hear me? Yeah. I'm Dimosthenis, and I study Lyra in the University of Ioannina.
Thank you. And then the student from France.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Héloïse Péguin, and I'm in pôle Aliénor, and I play violin.
Yes, thank you. And we'll finish with the student from Spain.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello, I'm Celia. I'm from Spain, and I'm playing violin.
Sorry. Yeah, and well, and I'm Johan, of course, and I'm studying here at Dickson, and I played fiddle. So for this short student panel, we posed ourselves essentially a couple questions, a couple points to give thought about, and we formulate these questions. I'm gonna read the 2 questions to you. So the first one was, how did the experience of the intensive week influence your view about other European musical environments and traditions? And the second one was, in what way do you think the intercultural exchanges you experienced thanks to the TUN project could be beneficial to your development as a musician? So yeah, I think we can just start again from Brett and see what his thoughts about these 2 points are.
Yes, thank you. About the first question, the first thing that came to my mind was how I think it was Zoltan Kodály who said that in order to understand or study other cultures, you have to understand your own first. And this way, it applies to the intensive week, because knowing that and knowing your own culture, you can make some connections in your head, draw lines to the things you have in common with other nations. For example, I was pleasantly surprised when I realized that the Spanish tunes, for example, sound quite familiar to my ear. And about being influencers, I think the students, the teachers are influencing each other the whole week. And a nice example for that is that we have Emma from France this semester studying with us in Estonia. But learning tunes from other countries is quite different. I myself hadn't played other tunes from like Estonian or maybe some Slavic, and they have really different feelings and rhythms and scales, which you definitely can't master in a few days or a week. But I think you can get the basic grasp and know what to look for. For example, if you were to play some Norwegian or French tunes, you already know that there might be some alterations for some notes. And if you can't find them yourself, you know what to look for and ask for help. Definitely a big part of it is connections with people who are roughly your own age. And you have the opportunity to grow up together as musicians. And overall group working skills. How to understand others and how to make yourself understood to others. Everything from English language to body language. And back to the grasping the basics, it's quite a time saver in a confined time window. For example, if you know that you're going to play with a Spanish bagpiper, then you have the experience knowing that they usually have two chanters, one in C and one in D. And so you can prepare for that situation. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. I think, yeah, I really like the way you started about that citation from Kodalev, because I also sort of thought about this point, but I think it works a lot also the other way around, since in some way you start seeing things in your own culture and your own musical tradition when you start seeing more points from other traditions that you didn't have, that you hadn't seen before. So you start realizing some things that you couldn't see or hear before, I think. We can pass maybe on to Dimosthenis from Greece.
Yes, Brett, you said so great about all this experience. I agree 100%. And yes, it was really short time when I go back in my memory, and but first of all, we met great people, and I don't know, it's like I feel that you have to zoom out, like you have a camera, you have to zoom out and to see the connections between the traditions and to maybe generalize some things in order to come closer. And that to me gives me a more depth in every tradition and in what each one of us does in her instrument and music. It's like zoom in, zoom out and zoom in at the same time. And it's what makes me really enthusiastic about music in general, I can say. And in the end, I feel that we can communicate. I mean, even in that short period of time, we can find melodies, and yes, we can have a common mutual time together playing. as we can communicate by speaking English or whatever language, another language. Yeah, and it's magical. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was quite on point to say that you have to zoom out and zoom in at the same time, because indeed having just like the intensive week is just 1 week. So you really have to deal with the fact that you, of course, won't be able to learn a totally new playing style in just 1 week. But at the same time, you can notice little details that you can maybe appreciate and incorporate maybe in your own music. That's at least what my experience has been. It's not much about, or at least it is partly about the whole tradition that you're trying to understand. But also maybe there's a little, you know, a musician that maybe holds his fiddle a little differently that you haven't seen before, or maybe a little ornament that you hadn't heard before and you want to maybe try and incorporate in your own music. So yeah, it's a lot about two different levels.
Yes, and something to add is that the key, I feel, is in every situation that has to do with different musicians from different areas and traditions. The key is to be more in the mood, to go in the mood. Like there are 3, 4, 5, or as many people. And they create something with the energy and the mood. And the key to this to work and go on is to forget about what you're doing or how you do it and stick to the mood that it is created and to the story that it is built. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very interesting way to see it. I probably, yeah, it is probably something that happened even though you don't really focus about it. Yeah, we may maybe have to move on to Héloïse.
Hello. I was delighted to meet so many people together, having so much traditional music during this week made me realize that yes, music is still universal. So this is what reflects such a project in my eyes is whether in small group or in large numbers, the work was very interesting. So yes, I was really delighted from this project. Yes. I don't remember the question. Sorry.
Yeah, no, if you maybe like some other thoughts about how the intensive week has been for you and what kind of insights that experience gave to you about other traditions, or if you feel like it helped you as a musician, the new things you learned.
Yes, when I walk. Oh, sorry, I don't have a battery. When I walk now, I remember the tradition of many countries and yes, it's yes, it's I don't know what is it the word, what is it exactly, but the ressenti. Je pense que tu peux m'aider. Ressenti.
Also, maybe the feeling.
Oui, the feeling. It's was very good in experience, because when we work during the life, the evolution was je sais même pas comment expliquer en français. Je suis désolée.
That's okay. That's okay. But yeah.
Bah, je peux te parler en français peut-être, et peut-être que tu vas pouvoir m'aider.
Yeah, maybe very briefly. We don't have a lot of time.
Ok. Je vais essayer. C'est une expérience qui fait que, au fur et à mesure, quand on évolue avec la musique, on s'imprègne forcément du travail des autres, et d'être autant réunis avec autant de pays, c'était forcément une bonne expérience pour le travail personnel, mais aussi une conversation avec les autres aussi.
Yeah, so generally it helped to work with all these people. It helped you both in a personal level, both in like the way you make music, and also like to communicate with other people and to work together with other people. Yeah. But thank you so much. I think we can finish with Celia.
Well, my experience in the intensive week, it has helped me in getting to know another kind of cultures and music. As my background is classical music, I have discovered the traditional music and another ways of making music without even caring about technical usage. And I'm free. I feel free playing traditional music, because we don't need the scores and the indication of a composer. And in my point of view about environment traditional music in Europe, hasn't changed since I have been in the intensive week, because as in another fields, Europe care more about culture and education, and in my country, this happen more or less. And I think the organization of the Spanish government in the education and inversions in traditional music and in the culture are not enough. And I think that we need to improve in this field.
Yeah, I think it is very interesting to also see when you have exchanges with other cultures, and how, well, not more with other cultures, but how the other cultures treat their folk music in their own countries. It happens on different levels. Also, how it's already been said before during this event, that the concept of music can change a lot. And it is also interesting to see, like, to consider maybe this cliche of saying music being this universal language, though you see when you start getting to know other cultures how the same word music can mean different things, and the context in which that happens can vary a lot. And I come from Italy, and I get a lot what you're saying, that it's maybe some countries don't give the same weight to folk music or to traditional music the same way than other countries that we've been come in contact with do. Okay, I think if there are some questions from the other members or the other people present here for either me or the other students before we conclude, they can maybe write in the chat or take the word or raise a hand. And meanwhile,
yes,
yeah,
sorry, I wanted to say I don't know if there is the second question now, or it was like a sum up 1-2 question.
Yeah, we sort of
glued it
and
together.
yeah, we answered two questions together.
I wanted to tell you that yeah, it's totally different. It's good though that there is YouTube and stuff. I could listen to Estonian polka or Norwegian fiddles and vals from Limousine that Penguin learned us, but it has nothing to do having in front of you the musician that plays and gives you the feeling of that specific piece of music. And that for me is that something that it gives you a ton of other ways of expression, of different colors to use, not only, I mean, to use not only in your tradition, let's say, but to create some music, because with my friends we're discussing about, okay, we play traditional, as we call it in Greece or in other parts of the world, music, but like Kokkonis said, we want something like popular also music, like music of today that we play with the instruments that we love and the sounds that we find ourselves expressing ourselves, and how this will sound. And situations like this, I think, will help us enrich our abilities and emotions, so we can make music that is parallel to our lives and what we live. Yeah, that is my that what I want to tell you. Yeah, that it will help us to make music, our music, because okay, we play, we know our ancestors or whatever, but I think, yes, the right way and the more healthy way to play these instruments and this music is to create something, our stories.
Yeah.
And a part of our stories, music stories, is that we did in February and we continue, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It is it is and for that I think it is very important to experience those kinds of music in person and having musicians in person that play for you, because that really gives a different effect on you than just going on YouTube and looking for Greek traditional music, let's say. Okay, so if there's no other questions or comments, I think I can pass on again to Laura.
Thank you so much, Joan, and all the students in the panel. I ask one more time because maybe somebody has a question before we take a little break. Anybody want to ask a question or comment? Raise your hand or write in the chat. Don't see any hands. Okay. Well, it was really wonderful hearing all of your thoughts, and yeah, really appreciate that you took the time to share and consider what your experiences have been through Tune. And I think that this is connections that are long lasting. I really hope that it's a strong network for all the students that have been part of the project. So thank you. Now we're going to take a break, a lunch break. I think everybody needs a little break. So we'll be back at 12:30 for the final session. And in the final session, we're going to be screening student videos that were made as part of an assignment this spring. So that'll be about a 30-minute video, and then some closing words, and that'll be the end of the event. So take a little break now, and we'll be back at 12:30. See you soon.